Train the muscles, not the joints.
Welcome back to Natural Gallant Bodybuilding, and today I thought I'd talk to you a little bit about bone marrow and why I use it. Mountain. Now, one of the reasons why I decided to start taking bone marrow was when I was introduced to the idea of bone marrow, I realized how often do I ever eat bone marrow? And there might be something missing in my nutrition from this, because I could honestly say probably once or twice a year I eat some bone marrow, where I actually have a steak with the bone intact, or I have a soup where the bones are actually boiled for long periods of time to extract the bone marrow and stuff. So I can honestly say I very rarely ever get bone marrow. And it only stands to reason, based on the shamanic thinking, that if you wish to heal the blood, you work with the bone marrow, right? Because the bone marrow is where all the blood's produced, right? The bone marrow plays a massive role in blood production. So if your blood is off, if you're not getting proper circulation, or you don't have enough blood or healthy blood, you are not going to be able to carry the proper amount of nutrients to different areas of the body in order for it to heal. So it made sense to me that bone marrow seems to be the nourishing element for the densest part of the body, which is the bones, right? So bones, teeth, ligaments, these are denser tissues and tendons and stuff, and that is definitely something that every bodybuilder or athlete deals with as far as issues in the long run, because the joints are usually what have a hard time holding up to the recovery. It's not necessarily the muscles as much as it is the joints. So I thought bone marrow could be a very strong ally in the healing of the joints. And so it turns out bone marrow gives a lot of assistance to healing of collagen in the body. And it does contain glucosamine and so forth. So those of you who are taking glucosamine supplements, throw them out. You could just use bone marrow and get many different supplements all in one. Another such supplement that bone marrow does contain is CLA. Now, CLA was a product that was launched by EAS back in the late 90s, and CLA is known as conjugated linoleic acid. Now, CLA, through certain studies, was shown, or at least through the studies that were shown at the time, to increase lean muscle mass and lower body fat deposition. So this was a sports supplement that people were buying and taking as a separate supplement, along with their other supplements such as creatine, glutamine, all that sort of thing. They were taking conjugated linoleic acid. So bone marrow already contains this in high concentrations. But that's not the most exciting part about bone marrow. I'm going to share with you somebody's coming. It's always scary doing video on a trail, because you never know who's going to come. You never know what's going to happen. Kind of fucking psycho wants to interrupt my video. So one thing I've noticed after taking bone marrow and the beef organs through ancestral supplements is that my energy is more stable, physically speaking. So when I'm in the gym, I find that I can push harder and longer if I wish to. Like, I do have the physical endurance to do this, where sometimes I wouldn't have as much physical endurance. So I noticed that there's some sort of, it's really difficult to explain, but I feel strong in my bones. I actually literally feel stronger in my bones, if I could even describe it that way. Now, I know this is kind of anecdotal or whatever, but something that isn't anecdotal is that a friend of mine who is diabetic, who measures her blood sugar all the time, started taking some beef organs and the bone marrow supplement, and then she measured her numbers and noticed that they started to come down. So her blood sugar was not necessarily up and down so much, it became more stable. So she needed actually less insulin in order to do the same job after taking bone marrow for a period of time. Now, it's funny because I learned this, but just today I started reading up on bone marrow to find out why is this happening, because I had another person close to me also say that they had a similar experience. And one of the reasons for this could be something called adiponectin. Now, I had to look at my phone in order to be able to pronounce that, because I couldn't remember it for the life of me. But it is something that is in bone marrow that assists with stabilizing blood sugar. So they've noticed bone marrow helps for people with diabetes or with unstable blood sugar. So that if their blood sugar is all over the place, bone marrow seems to have some sort of stabilizing effect on this. And the University of Michigan did some sort of study on this, and it basically showed that people who have trouble with obesity have a tendency to be deficient in adiponectin. Is that how you say it? Adiponectin? Let me check again. Is it adiponectin? Yes, it's called adiponectin. Who makes these words up? Who does this? Who makes this crap up? Why can't it just be simple, like rock, stick, ball, tree, leaf, bark? See, I'm good at those words. Adiponectin, that's not even a freaking word, man. Who makes this crap up? That said, there is a link between obesity and a deficiency in adiponectin. So because of this link, This may also point towards something to do with unstable or unstable blood sugar. So taking bone marrow may assist you in your bodybuilding gains, not only because of the CLA and the blood healing benefits, but it may also help stabilize that blood sugar, which what? It makes you have more energy, better muscle pumps, and able to sustain more muscle mass at a leaner body weight for longer periods of time with the same amount of caloric intake, right? So this is a no-brainer when it comes down to bodybuilding. I mean, bone marrow, not that expensive, but at the same time could be one of the missing links in our diets, because a lot of bodybuilders are eating low fat, or they're just eating meat, and then maybe some carbs or meat and fats, but they're not necessarily ingesting high amounts, or at least an ounce or two of bone marrow every single day. They're not, right? Bone marrow. Where can I find some bone marrow? Troll bone marrow. Hey, that's free. Troll bone marrow. Can't get cheaper than free. No, sir. So sometimes what I'll do is I'll get a steak from my butcher shop, or a few steaks anyway, and there's a specific cut that contains bone marrow. So you can barbecue or fry that steak up or whatever, and then you automatically get that bone in there full of the bone marrow. So this is a way that you can actually add bone marrow into your diet. And of course, yeah, you always want to add as much natural foods as you can, and try to make sure it's grass-fed and organic and whatever if you can, although that is pretty hard to find, right? But if you do have a butcher, you can just get them to cut your steaks or whatever in a way where you are including some bone marrow in your diet. And that's what I'd recommend, because it tastes really good. Honestly, with some garlic and some salt, man, it's unbelievable, right? So I'd highly recommend it if you actually, if you enjoy steak, you're gonna definitely enjoy the bone marrow, I'll tell you that. But the only problem is with doing it this way is that sometimes you won't necessarily get in a regular dose of bone marrow, because I find I eat steak, a few times a week. I don't eat it every single day. And yeah, sometimes you may be varying up your diet. Maybe you're having chicken, maybe you're having fish, which is a good thing. You want to vary your diet up as well. I mean, you don't always want to be eating the same stuff. But the nice thing is, a lot of you guys don't know, is that this particular cut of steak that I get, and I can't remember the name of it, is extremely cheap, because the meat close to the bone is not very tender. It's kind of chewy. So a lot of people tend to steer away from it, but that has way more nutrition. So it's pretty much half the price of normal steak. So that's the great part about it, right? But those of you who are concerned about getting organic, non-GMO, grass-fed beef, and you don't necessarily have that source close to you, or you're not necessarily eating bone marrow on a regular basis, maybe this next option is for you. Case in point, this supplement, Ancestor Supplements, I take this bone marrow along with beef organs, and just 6 of these capsules is equivalent to about a half an ounce of bone marrow per day, right? When the heck do you get that much bone marrow? You never do, right? So that's why I take this. So that's it. If you're looking for an all-around bodybuilding and good fitness supplement and overall health tonic, bone marrow is a good place to start. Now, of course, I'm talking about a couple nutrients that are found in bone marrow, but of course, as I've talked about before, everything is energy, everything is vibration. And that is really the more important thing. Even if science doesn't really recognize why you're getting a health benefit, you will notice some health benefits. So sometimes it takes a while before science catches up and says, okay, this is why you're actually experiencing such and such benefit from eating such and such food, right? So the reason why I mention the nutrients is because maybe sometimes it helps you left-brainers out there who only understand the language of what's recognized and not what's not recognized. So sometimes it helps you guys understand that there is some known benefits already, and therefore you can venture into the territory of maybe some other extra benefits that you're not even aware of yet. I'm hunting trolls. These guys are getting good at hiding. It's amazing. They're huge. They're very big, but they're good at hiding. Never imagined these guys could hide this well. Guess I'm gonna have to go with the butcher shop for now. Probably be easy being a vegetarian, I think. Maybe it would be easier. I'm gonna have to do all this hunting in the rain. I hope this helps you out in your training. Thanks a lot for watching. If you need to get a hold of me, just go to naturalgallantbodybuilding.com, and thanks to the Patreon supporters, and take care for now. Mountain.